I think when we have a limiting belief, if you just put on the word yet at the end, I can't lift 10 kilos. I'm in America, so it's pounds usually. I can't lift 10 pounds yet, or I can't walk a mile yet. I think that little word on the end can be so impactful because you truly might not be able to do it today. But if you keep up the work, you're going to be able to do it in a week or a month, or depending on the goal, you will accomplish that.
Welcome to Thriving with Diabetes, the podcast where we empower people with type 2 diabetes. I am your host, Gamden, a holistic wellness coach, helping people overcome the struggles they face with diabetes. I believe that with the correct knowledge, mindset, and support, you can manage your health condition effectively and lead or live a fulfilling life. Today we have a special guest who represents the spirit of thriving in every aspect of life. Joining us is Anne Randall, a business leader, podcast host, certified coach, and motivational speaker, and is the owner of Orange Theory Fitness, where she has spent over 10 years helping members and employees achieve lasting changes. As the founder of Be the Person, she extends her passion for personal development, inspiring people to reach their full potential. In this episode, Anne will share her insights on the impact of fitness on health, the importance of mindset, overcoming limiting beliefs, the power of small changes and sustainable habits, and much more. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Anne Randall to introduce herself. And welcome to Thriving with Diabetes podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today and just share with your audience. I'm with you. Our vision, I think, is much the same, that people really can thrive in their health, and it doesn't have to be massive changes. We can start out with small changes that really develop over time to make us the person we want to be. So I'm super excited to share today.
Brilliant. Let's start with talking about your health journey and mission and what inspired you to start this path.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I grew up and I was an athlete growing up. I always enjoyed sports, gymnastics, taekwondo, and then graduated, went to grad school, and worked in a bank for the next 15 years, thinking that fitness for me would just be a hobby. And then we received a postcard for a new fitness facility called Orange Theory Fitness. And Orange Theory is a worldwide brand. They have over 1,500 studios. And my husband and I, opened one of the first ones. And we did that in Colorado Springs about 10 years ago. And it was really my move from enjoying fitness as a hobby to really taking it on as a career. And during that time, I've always run the business side, but I also coached at Orange Theory for several years. And then a couple years ago, I really got into nutrition and got holistically certified as a nutritionist because my path, I saw that we were making changes with fitness. And I love what that does to people's bodies when you move it, not from just an aesthetic aspect, but for their longevity and for their overall health. And so, but that was only half of the equation. Food was the other part. And when we combine those two together, magic really happens. When we have our exercise correct and our nutrition dialed in, our body is meant to thrive, and it can do that. We just live in a world that has a lot of processed foods, a lot of times, me included, that we can be very sedentary during the day because our job has us sitting a lot of the times. But there have been things that we can do that I've done that I can share that have really made a huge impact. So that's been my personal journey. So I work as a coach now. I run businesses. I have 3 kids. I've been married 27 years. So that's really Annie in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that information. Very interesting how you progressed through the years. You started as, fitness was a hobby. Then or you moved it to become a career, or then you made it as a business finally, and you help people with fitness. And you mentioned nutrition. We cannot talk about fitness without talking about nutrition. Very interesting information. Actually, I want to discuss the impact of fitness on health. So, how has fitness impacted people's overall health and wellness, specifically those who were or are struggling with health issues like diabetes?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. And right now in the fitness industry, there's a big debate between cardio and strength training and which is best. And honestly, I think our bodies need both. And I think we thrive when we do both. And sometimes that really makes people nervous if they're beginning a fitness journey to think cardio plus strength training, I might not do anything today. How would I even start? And what I always tell people is we start smaller than you think you should. So it might be a walk around your block, and that might count as your cardio, and we build from there. Because I don't want you just to do it once. I want you to do it today, and again tomorrow, and then the next day. So we make a habit out of doing it. It just becomes part of who you are. So cardio is one, because the most important muscle in your body is your heart. So we have to strengthen that. We have to have healthy hearts. It's still the number one killer in all nations is heart disease. So I think cardio is first, and we start from where you're at. If that's walking, jogging, running, the other thing is, what do you like to do? Some people hate to run. I wouldn't put them on a running program. They might love to cycle or do the elliptical at the gym or some other type of cardio. I think we pick what really you enjoy doing, because then you'll continue to do that. And with strength training, we know that this is really the key to longevity. You have to be able to walk upstairs. You have to be able to stand from a chair. All of that requires muscle. And if we don't start strength training at around the age 30, we start to lose muscle every single year. And especially when we're talking about people that are diabetic, muscles are really the key to getting insulin out of, or getting glucose out of your body. So when you eat something, it can be absorbed by your muscles, but you have to have them and maintain them. And again, this does not have to be you're going to a gym and lifting all the time. We don't have to start there. I would say eventually our goal is 2 to 3 times a week of strength training, but you can start at home with body weight exercises. That might look like push-ups on your knees or on the wall, and body weight squats, because that is going to build muscle. And then you might progress to maybe someday wanting to go to the gym. So at that point, you have both cardio and strength training. That's going to help you have a healthy heart, have you have muscles that are going to help you age. So you don't just do it for looks, you really do it for longevity.
Brilliant. Very interesting information. You shared a lot of helpful insights. Uh, so you mentioned or some of the benefits for doing exercise or fitness, heart health, longevity. It helps with muscle growth. You mentioned as well insulin sensitivity. So that is a key benefit when it comes to diabetes. Mindset plays a crucial role in achieving and maintaining health goals. How important is to have a strong or positive mindset to overcome health challenges and achieve wellness goals?
I think mindset is really important because there's been times that we've all struggled, whether it be with depression or lack of motivation, just not feeling like doing something. You know, I wish I could tell you every single day I hop out of bed and it's really easy to go to the gym and work out. But I will tell you, I do it every single day because it's part of who I am. And one of the interesting things I was listening to this morning was, we may not always feel like it. We may not always have the motivation, but then what we rely on is one, the habits that we've built, and also the promises that we make to ourselves. So I'm a big fan of outlining the week and what I'm going to do. So on Sunday night, I sit down with my calendar and I will put in workouts just like their meetings. And when I say I work out every day, it doesn't mean it has to be a very hard workout. That could be going on a walk with my dog, but incorporating movement into my daily routine. And then other days are harder with interval training at Orange Theory. And then it might be yoga as well. I like to mix in a lot of different things as far as working out. That really helps my mindset. But one, I think if you outline it at the beginning of the week, so you set a plan and then you keep the promises that you set to yourself. And that helps us build self-confidence when we keep those promises. We show up for us. And as moms and dads and busy career people, I know how easy it is to show up for everyone else. Say, oh, I could do this instead, or that doesn't matter. I can put my workout off. But when we do that, we put our health below, and we have to start putting ourselves first. Not because it's selfish, and not that we do it always, but for our workouts, I think it's super important that you do take that time for yourself. And on busy days, we can still factor it in of, can you take a conference call walking around your block? I know my son plays basketball, so I'm driving carpool a lot, but I'll walk before his games. I think we just have to be creative in the ways that we find the ability to incorporate this in. And then how we think about it, going back to mindset, I think is super important because I think just seeing yourself as a healthy person, not seeing yourself as somebody who works out, or seeing yourself, maybe how you saw yourself growing up, going back to if you were always the kid that was overweight, or for many years you've been that way, or you were the person that didn't exercise. You get to create who you want to be today, and that starts with mindset. It starts with saying, I'm a healthy person as of today. These are things that I do. Maybe it's not because I feel like doing them, but because I've made a commitment to myself and they're part of my habits. Those are just a couple of things on mindset that really help me on a day-to-day basis.
Brilliant. Very interesting information. Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned a lot. You mentioned that mindset is very important when it comes to lack of motivation. And you mentioned as well we should plan for a week, do physical activities that we enjoy, keep our promise,
Yeah.
and show up and put ourselves first. But it's not about selfish, but it's just to take care of ourselves so we can serve others as well. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, with a mindset, we want to touch more about limiting beliefs. And people might have some motivation, but they stop doing what they have to do. When sometimes a person can have a sort of limiting beliefs, even when it comes to health and fitness. For example, I might say I cannot lift 20 kilos. But in fact, if I try, I can do 25, 30. So how do you help people overcome limiting beliefs and health challenges?
I love this question. It's such a great question because two things really come to mind. And the first one is very easy. I think when we have a limiting belief, if you just put on the word yet at the end, I can't lift 10 kilos. I'm in America, so it's pounds usually. I can't lift 10 pounds yet, or I can't walk a mile yet. I think that little word on the end can be so impactful because you truly might not be able to do it today. But if you keep up the work, you're going to be able to do it in a week or a month, or depending on the goal, you will accomplish that. So I think when you put that in your mind, really adding that word to the end and just seeing how does that feel to you, because that's going to flip our mind around. The other thing is, what is that voice in your head telling you? You know, for me, this was something, it was probably in my 40s that I really started to pay attention to every day. What are the things you're telling yourselves? Because this is the start of limiting beliefs. And what I noticed was that little voice inside of me was very mean. It wasn't an encouraging voice. It was, why aren't you doing better? Why aren't you running faster? Why aren't you helping more people? The list goes on, depending on what you do and who you are. But I think most people can relate to that. They have that voice in their head that isn't always the most positive. So for the next few days, I would just challenge the audience. Listen to that voice. If you haven't paid attention, what is that voice telling you? And then the next thing is, would you tell somebody else that same thing? If I had to verbalize outside or out loud what what I was saying to myself inside, I realized I would not have any friends. I wouldn't have any employees. No one would want to be around me. So I really needed personally to change that voice in my head, to change those limiting beliefs. And identifying was the very first step. So pay attention to that. And then over time, I would just really pay attention. When one of those things came up, we make a decision. We can decide, do I want to believe it or do I want to think differently next time? And I can tell you this is a process. You're not going to go from, having that mean voice to tomorrow being super positive all the time about yourself. But over time, what I created was a person on the inside that was much nicer, that gave grace, talked to myself the way I would talk to other people. And I'll give you a very specific example. One of the things that I realized later in life that I grew up with, that other people might be able to realize too, was my struggle was the feeling of not being good enough. And, I think we probably all have something where we don't feel good enough. Maybe it's skinny enough, maybe it's healthy enough, maybe it's smart enough. Whatever your enough is, I think we all feel it. And for me, it was really identifying, wait a minute, where did that belief come from? And that belief I could really track back years and years ago. And then I asked the second question, was the belief true? Sometimes when I was 12 and I picked up that belief, was I good enough? I just automatically thought everything my brain thinks is true. I now realize that's not the case. Everything your brain thinks is not true. So the third question I asked myself is, do you want to believe it? And the answer in that case was no. Was it going to help me get to the next level? It wasn't. It was a belief that I had to let go of, that I am good enough at what I do. I can trust myself to show up. It's not going to be perfect. If health is your journey, I promise you there will be days you do great and days that you completely blow it. And that's okay. If you blow it today, don't blow it tomorrow. Get back right back on track. One day doesn't matter. 2 or 3 or 4 days, that starts to create a habit, and you get to choose if you want to create that habit for good. So maybe that resonates with you. Maybe you have some type of good enough feeling in you that you've really struggled with. And so asking yourself those questions, where did it come from? Is it true? And do I want to keep believing it? You could really ask yourself those questions on any limiting belief, and I think that will help us switch the mindset.
Brilliant. Very interesting information. And you emphasize that we shouldn't doubt ourselves, even if we failed at some point, but we need to keep going or trying. You mentioned if we cannot do something, we just add a word yet. Yes, I cannot do it at the moment, but I will do it, or I can do it next time. And there is a pro tip here you mentioned. When there is a voice or a thought, we have two options, either to believe it or take a decision. That is a very interesting point to mention. And now we talked about the role of fitness, the impact on health. We talked about mindset and how a positive or a strong mindset can help with health and fitness. We mentioned or you mentioned uh, some of the limiting beliefs that can impact our progress or the way we decide. Now, let's say that we have an overview of these and we understand them better now. Now, how can we make them as sustainable habits? So, what steps should we follow to make these or our actions as habits?
Yeah, I think this is so important because this is really where we make a playbook for each person. And I love to help people do this. What I will do is just get out of a blank piece of paper and I will start with making a plan. And again, we start from wherever you're at. So everybody's plan is going to look a little bit different. But at the top, let's say we start with exercise and we break that top of the page into cardio and strength training. And for cardio, maybe you're starting from zero, like you're not doing anything for fitness right now. And that's okay. So for our cardio, we literally are just going to walk 5 to 10 minutes every day. So I would put a plan in place. When are you going to do that? Because if I just say that I'm going to do it, but I don't have a true action plan, I might not do it. But if I say I'm going to do it first thing when I get up in the morning, I'm going to put my shoes by my bed. I'm going to put what I'm going to wear to walk around my block. It's all going to be there ready to go. And I'm going to have a plan for when I'm going to do that. Now, if you're already doing cardio today, but you're not getting the results you want, then we're going to look to change your cardio. We probably need to change the intensity or the type. Maybe you're walking right now, but you're not seeing the results you want. Then we need to either change the speed of how fast you walk, or we can change the duration. If you're doing it on a treadmill or live in a hilly place, we can also change the incline. So those are some factors, and you might want to try a different type of cardio. Maybe you've been walking, but you want to try biking. We would put that in there. And I would say put down the days and times and what you're going to do for cardio. We are faced with so many decisions every single day. You know, they're coming at us all the time. So I try to take the thought out of it. I don't have to think. I just know at 6 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, this is what I'm going to do. I do the same thing with strength training. And again, we are going to start from where you're at. So maybe it's push-ups and squats, and that's where we're starting. Maybe you've done that for a while and now you're ready to join a gym or you belong to a gym. You know, if you feel comfortable in there with weight training, great, start there. One of the people I really love to follow for this is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She has she has 3 different workouts on her website for weight training. So if you've never done it before, she can be a really terrific resource for you. But then you're going to put down 2 to 3 times a week when you're going to strength train. And then we all on the nutrition side, you know, I wish this was easy. And you may be listening and have it all dialed in. But for a lot of people, this one is the struggle because the food industry has made things very addictive and convenience isn't always the best food. So whenever I start here, I start with protein for people. You know, nutrition is super complex. And when we do a one-on-one program, we dive pretty deep. But when you're looking at this today, I would say up your protein because protein, 1, it helps you build muscle. 2, it's the most satisfying of the macronutrients, so you're not going to be as hungry. And 3, it has a thermogenic effect, meaning if I eat 100 calories of protein, it takes my body about 25 calories to break that down. So I would look, and I know you'll have to do the equation for me because in the United States we go off pounds, and I always tell people 1 pound per ideal body weight is what you recommend, or what I recommend, which is much higher than most people eat for protein. So we're definitely want to up our protein. And if you do that, oftentimes all of the rest falls into place. That's our first step. And then the very last thing for mindset, again, this will be a little bit different for each one of you, but what is that limiting belief you have? What is the thing that you struggle with? I told you mine. Mine was not feeling good enough. What is something that plays over in your mind? And I would write that limiting belief down, and I would really work to let that one go. To ask yourself those 3 questions. And maybe it's something that you take time and journal about because you want to be able to change that mindset. And then giving yourself that grace on days it doesn't go perfectly. That, and maybe write this on the bottom of your page. I might miss one day, but I don't miss 2 days. So you may have something that comes up, we all do. We have days that go wrong at work, children that throw up at school, whatever the case may be, where it impacts what we plan for that day. But the next day, you get right back on track. And in that one piece of paper, it can really outline for you your cardio and strength, your basic nutrition, adding in that protein, and then the belief that you're going to work to let go of, and what belief do you want to replace it with. And maybe it's just as simple as, I'm a healthy person. So that would be how I would start people on a very tactical plan that you could do right now. And maybe you're listening and you push pause and you just go and start to do that. And then you finish out the rest of it after you've filled out your 1 page sheet, because that can be impactful and you can start today.
Brilliant. Very interesting. You shared a lot of information, and we need to digest that well. Thank you for sharing that information. Some of the steps to make them as or to make our actions as habits. You said start small, like 5 to 10 minutes, for example. Start in the morning, which is a good idea before we get busy during the day. The other thing you mentioned is try to make or to plan the exercise a week in advance, and you mentioned that earlier as well. Try to adjust the intensity or the exercise types. And you mentioned nutrition, and you focused more on proteins. That is a good one. And for mindset and limiting beliefs, you said identify your limiting beliefs, then let it go. That is a powerful message or tip from you. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, I want to talk about walking after meals. And walking after meals is a simple and effective habit for blood sugar levels control and to improve our health as well. Can you share something about that?
Yes, absolutely. About a year ago, I got really curious. about, I think we hear a lot about blood glucose and different things, and I'm always a person that has to test it. I want to see if it really works. So I wore a glucose monitor for several months to test things on myself. And this was one I had heard: walking after meals, especially dinner, can lower your blood glucose. And it's really important after dinner, because what I saw is, we eat dinner and our blood glucose goes up. It might go up just a little bit. It might spike if we eat a lot of carbs, but it's definitely going to go up. And what I saw is, if I just walk around my block. I didn't do it fast. My dogs loved it. My husband did it with me. And so we just made it something we did right after dinner. 10 minutes is what it took us. And what I saw was it decreased my blood glucose. And the really great part is it stayed down for the rest of the night. I typically don't eat after dinner. I'll wait until breakfast the next morning. But that was really impactful. And the other thing that I took from that, we again always do it at night. But the other thing, if let's say I'm working and I may eat lunch at my desk, and I'm guessing other people might sometimes do that as well. The next thing I would do is, if I had a call, I had a walking pad. I have one in my office. I'll walk very slow around there. Or if it's nice, I'll get outside, or I might even just walk around my house. But just not sitting right after you eat can be so impactful, because it gets that glucose into your muscles, and that's going to lower your blood sugar quicker. And I think the myth is you have to do it for a long time. It has to be exercise. You have to walk fast. And that's not what the research shows. And it's also not what I found when I did it personally with a monitor on.
Brilliant. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing your experience with walking after meals. And the key point here is, when we walk after meals, our blood sugar or glucose levels go down. And you mentioned that we can do it even as a group of people, if there is a chance. And it might take about 10 minutes, maybe more. Just is a simple practice to make it as a habit. Actually, you talked a little bit about your continuous glucose monitor. But if you can share a little bit about that, and what do you think of it?
Yeah. One of the questions I always get right away is, which one? How did you do it? And I did talk to my doctor, because at least in the US it does require a prescription. The Libra 3 is what I used. I did have to pay for it, but it was not expensive. It was about $40 for every 2 weeks. It did not hurt to put it on, and I'm kind of a wimp with needles, I will tell you, but you just pop it right on the back of your arm, and then there was an app on the phone that showed you, because again, I was very curious to see what different things did to my body. And everybody's body is going to be a little bit different. So how I react to a banana might be slightly different than how you react. So that's why I wanted to know personally. But there was a few big takeaways from me. One was, the walking. That was an easy one. The other one was just starting my day with protein. I really made the change to start my day with 30 grams of protein. What I saw was it helped stabilize my blood sugar a little bit more throughout the day. I was also less hungry. So that was a key takeaway, starting your day with that 30 grams. And then the last one, there's really three: the walking, the breakfast with 30 grams, And the third one was to start your meal with either fiber or protein. So if you can start with fiber, which is just any type of vegetable, if like for me, I love peppers. So I might cut up a yellow pepper, and snacking has always been something I've struggled with. And I would always snack a lot during dinner. And I can tell you what I snacked on wasn't the best. And so I switched that and I made it a pepper because it was crunchy, it was easy to fix. You know, you can eat a big pepper and it doesn't have that many calories, but it has a lot of fiber in it. And so if you start your meals with fiber, that really helps slow down the digestion of other things in your stomach. So, what it means is your glucose doesn't spike as much. So, I would say just have a veggie starter. If you can have some type of veggie starter, you know, if you're out to dinner, a lot of times they will bring the bread first, maybe the wine. But if you can wait and do the salad first, and then do maybe the bread and the wine later, that is going to make a big difference. Just the order that you eat in. So, again, not super difficult to make that change. It's not like you can't ever have bread or wine again. It's just we're going to switch those things so you have that veggie starter first. And then just remember, if you do have that bread or wine, it probably is going to spike your glucose levels a little bit, not as much as if you eat it first, but then that walk around the block afterwards is really going to help. So, those things in conjunction, for me, they weren't big changes. They were fairly easy to do, but they made a big impact on my health.
Brilliant. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing your experience with continuous glucose monitor and nutrition as well. Great that you mentioned fiber and protein together. That is a very good tip or strategy. For the CGM or continuous glucose monitor, yeah, as you can see, it helps monitor how different, how nutrition, physical activity, or stress affect our blood sugar levels. That is a very good tool to use. I have got another question before we finish this episode. What inspiring message or advice would you like to leave with our viewers and listeners to motivate or help them on their health journey?
I love that because we're all on this journey together. And where you are today doesn't have to be where you are in a month from now. We're moving one direction, and you can choose to move forward or you can choose to move backwards. And it's simple little choices that we can all do. The walk around the block, the making the plan, the adding in protein, all of those things don't have to be major changes, but little things over time matter a lot because they start to compound and they can compound for good. And my podcast is called Be the Person because I am a big believer that you can be the person that you choose to be, and it can be really different than the person you are today. You can find the knowledge already. If you're listening to this podcast, you're amazing because you're getting knowledge to better yourself. So you're already such a big step ahead. You're already on that road to becoming the person you want to be. And you can do that. You can make that choice. And sometimes we're stuck in that place where it seems overwhelming and too hard. And what I would say is just do something. Do something positive today for your health, and tomorrow do two little things. And over time, that will compound, and you will be the person you want to be.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing your great, inspiring message. You said we can either move forward or backwards, and you finished with do something positive every day, even if it is a small action. Thank you for sharing that. How can people find you if they want to get in touch with you or learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah, I have a website. It's called Be the Person CO, and that's because I live in Colorado. BeThePersonCO.com. On there, you can book a call, you can see my podcast, follow my social media. Also, it will pop up that you can get an optimal guide to health. So, we just did a tiny bit on nutrition today. And if you want more information and a specialized worksheet just for you that you can go through and fill out, put your information in there. I'll send you that. And then every twice a month, I do a newsletter with different health topics. So that'll automatically sign you up for that newsletter as well. So BeThePersonCO.com is the best way to get in touch with me.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing your contact information and the guide to help people with their health journey. Is there anything that you think we missed, we didn't cover, you want to mention?
I don't think so. I think you did a wonderful job today being a host and really talking about fitness, nutrition, mindset. Those all play into who we are today and just helping people get better. So I love the work that you're doing with this podcast.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now we have come to the end of this episode. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our amazing guest, Anne Randall, for generously sharing her expertise, time, and insights with us today. I also want to thank all of you, our dedicated viewers and listeners, for being a part of this episode. If you need additional guidance and support, you can book a call with me at wellnessimpact.org. If you found today's episode insightful and valuable, I invite you to join our community of people committed to thriving with diabetes. To stay up to date for upcoming episodes, empowering discussions, and practical tips, make sure to subscribe and follow us. Once again, thank you, Anne, for being our guest today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this impactful journey. Until next time, take care of your health and keep thriving.